latest in tech and accessibility. This is Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo.
Welcome back to Access Tech Live with me, Stephen Scott, and Marc Aflalo. Now, Apple's Fitness Plus is a growing service that launched at a time when fitness services were all the rage. This one, though, has managed to outlast some of its competitors and continues to bring new features and innovation to the table. Marc Aflalo had a rare opportunity to sit down with Apple's Vice President of Fitness Technologies and dive into what makes the service so special.
In March 2014, Apple first unveiled its Fitness Plus platform, instantly making its service available to Apple users worldwide. Now, since that time, the platform continues to grow and is, and always has been, and has always taken inclusivity to whole new levels. Joining us now is Apple's Vice President of Fitness Technologies, joining us live from Apple's Fitness Plus studios, Jay Blahnik. Thank you so much for joining us here on Access Tech Live.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you very much for including us.
Now, Jay, you've been at Apple since 2013, before Fitness Plus was even a thing. This was before the Apple Watch was even really a thing. So I've got to ask you, from your background and your experience, when you came to Apple, was Fitness Plus something that was even on the radar?
You know, that's a great question. When I came to Apple, we were working on launching the Apple Watch, and we knew from the very beginning that this was going to be the most personal product that Apple had ever designed because you wear it on your body. But we didn't have any notion in our mind about building out a fitness service. We were really focused on making the Apple Watch a great experience for many things, but obviously fitness was one of the things at its core, to help people be more active, to help them measure their workouts. And we were thrilled by the response we received. Believe it or not, this coming April will be the 10th anniversary of the Apple Watch. So time has really flown. After a few years of the Apple Watch being in the market and seeing how successful it was for our users and helping them be more active, we started hearing from our users. They were asking questions like, I love the measurement and the motivation that the watch provides me, but how do I get started in yoga? Or how do I run my first race? Or, you know, I want to build more flexibility or more strength. How do I do that? And we started thinking it might be a great idea to provide content that went along with the Apple Watch. At Apple, we really care deeply about not just going into areas because there's an opportunity. We really want to go into an area when we can contribute something very unique. And so we spent a lot of time thinking about what we can contribute. There's many great fitness services out there, and we're fans of many of them, but we really wanted to think about what we could do uniquely. And after a couple of years of really ideating on it, we came up with something that's really core of what Apple's all about. And it was based on a very simple idea, and that is that we believe gyms and hospitals are two of the most intimidating places on the planet. And we really felt like it would be amazing if we could build a fitness service that was the most welcoming and accessible fitness service on the planet. And so we set out about doing that. And that's really in line with what Apple's always been about, and it's about democratizing technology. We really wanted to use technology to democratize fitness and well-being with Apple Fitness Plus. And it's still Apple's newest service. We've only been out a little over 2 years, but the response has been incredible, and we're thrilled. And of course, as you know, it started as something where you needed an Apple Watch, but now the service has expanded to invite even users in that just have an iPhone.
Yeah, and using the service without actually needing the hardware is actually opening the door to a whole new audience. And I can see the use cases right there as well. And of course, especially with people with iPhones, because they can do it from anywhere, whether they're traveling on the road, et cetera, et cetera. I've got to ask you something, because from the get-go, and anybody who tunes into Fitness Plus, any program, you'll notice right from the beginning there's sign language, there's inclusivity, there's people without limbs, and that representation has been there since the start. When you developed this service, when you were thinking of Fitness Plus as a whole, was that representation important from the start, or is it something that developed over time?
Well, you know, our North Star, as I mentioned, was always about making and building a service that was the most welcoming and inclusive service on the planet. And at the core of the service, as you know, are the trainers. And so when we went about recruiting the team of trainers to be a part of Apple Fitness Plus, we really wanted to think deeply about how to make sure that everyone in the service would feel seen and heard and see that in their trainers. And so we obviously recruited trainers that were incredible experts, that were masters at their craft. But one of the things that was very important to us was that they also had a real heart for the beginner. And to us, that does not just mean a beginner who might be new to fitness or new to meditation, but anyone trying something new. So for example, we hear all the time where you might be a really fast runner coming into the service. You might be an elite runner, but if you're brand new to yoga, you demonstrate all the same, intimidation feelings with yoga as any beginner might that's maybe not even worked out before. And so we wanted a team that really had a heart for the beginner and whatever that meant to our users. And then we also wanted to make sure that the team represented all walks of life. And so we're the only fitness service that has trainers in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even one approaching 70. All shapes and sizes. Many of them have been in fitness and sport their whole life, but we felt it was really important to have trainers that have also been on their own fitness and well-being journey and maybe came to fitness later in life because they can bring that to their experience as a trainer in the service. And we love hearing that you notice it. We hear all the time from our users that they notice it as well. It's a big part of what makes the service tick is just knowing that when you see the trainers working together, that we're doing our best to try to make everyone feel included.
Yeah, and Jay, you really do feel that. You really feel that it's just catered to absolutely everybody. And that's important too, because there are so many different types of people out there with different levels of experience who want a harder workout, a softer workout. And in every program that I see on Apple Fitness Plus, you're catering to all the different levels at the same time, which is a unique challenge. But at the same time, you guys do it quite intelligently, and it doesn't come across as something that's just overly in your face. So I'm curious, how do you develop these programs knowing that the audience is not going to be all at the same levels? How do you make sure that you're catering to everybody you could possibly be tuning in at a given point in time?
We love hearing that feedback. Thank you. Yeah, it's on our mind every single day that we're in the studio because every single workout and meditation is crafted to try to make sure it's as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. One of the things that makes the service unique for those that haven't tried it is the first service where the trainers actually appear in the background of each other's workouts. So you may come in thinking that you're going to do a yoga class with Jessica or Dice, and you'll see one of the other trainers in the background. And that does two things. Number one, it allows you to really feel the brain trust of the whole trainer team, the motivation and inspiration from the whole trainer team, which does encourage you to try other things. You almost feel like you get a chance to meet them before you venture into, let's say, a new workout type or meditation. But the other thing it does is it allows us to ensure that there's always one trainer in the video demonstrating a modification for someone who may not be able to keep up with that particular move or with the entire workout. And so if you're brand new to yoga, you can always keep your eye on the trainer who's on the left because they will be demonstrating an easier version of the move that you just saw. So whether it's something where you might be struggling with your balance, or maybe you're just not flexible, or you don't have the strength to do it, you'll always know that one of the trainers has got your back. And our users tell us all the time they love seeing that mix of trainers doing that. Oftentimes, the trainer's doing a modification because they themselves need to make that modification. And it really makes them feel even more human and really connected to our users. So, you might see in a HIIT workout that Greg is not jumping. He's one of our strength trainers, and that's because jumping is not comfortable for him. He may also be the walker in a treadmill workout, and that really sends the message, which is important to us, that everyone's welcome. We are all on our own journey, and we're at different levels of that journey, and it's all okay. The other thing that you may have noticed, and something that was really important to our trainer team from the very beginning, was they all, before the service launched, they all began learning sign language. And they take lessons every single week, and they have so for since the service launched. And they use that sign language in their openings, throughout the workout, in their closing, for their inspirational moments, those power phrases that every trainer has. And we worked with our accessibility teams, and what they told us was it wasn't essential to use sign language throughout the entire workout or meditation, because obviously it's a visual medium and you can follow what the trainer's doing, but that it was a really important way to send the message that if you were hard of hearing or deaf, that you were also welcome, and that it was an important place for you to be able to, it was an important way for you to be able to see that. And we hear all the time from our users that say they love seeing that because it reminds them that this is a place where everyone's welcome. The trainers even do something else that's really, really great, and that is they've learned special techniques to teach with just their voice. In case you are low vision or are blind, you'll even see them in the rehearsal space inside the studio where oftentimes the lead trainer will be in front of a curtain and the background trainers will be on the other side of the curtain. And they will be attempting to cue their workout where the trainers can't actually see what the trainer is doing. And we're looking to see whether or not the words resonate in a way that allow you to actually follow along. And so those are just a few examples. We're constantly pushing on as many things as we can do to make the service as accessible as possible. We know it's a journey, not a destination. We'll continue to keep doing everything we can, but we're really thrilled about the response we've received so far.
Jay, when you pair an Apple Watch with the service and you use that as a companion to your workout, it takes things to a whole new level with Fitness Plus as a whole. Was the integration of the watch part of the plan from the start, or could this service have stood alone on its own?
Yeah, it's a great question. We did build the service around the Apple Watch from the beginning because we knew a lot about what people were reacting to on the Apple Watch. We knew they loved metrics as motivation. They really loved motivational nudges on the watch. And we wanted to bring all of that to the service. And we knew that while you were doing your workout or meditation, you may want to see the same metrics that you normally see on your watch up on the screen. So for us, it was a really obvious decision to integrate the Apple Watch and make it really simple to do simple things like use it as a remote control if you were doing the workouts in front of Apple TV, but also to make sure that you didn't have to look down at your wrist to see what your watch was measuring. What we heard after we launched was that there were many people that said, the Apple Watch seems great, but I'm not a watch wearer, or I'm never going to buy an Apple Watch, and I'd really like to use the service. Or people that were a part of a family plan where maybe some people had a watch and others in the family did not. And so just in the spirit of accessibility, we wanted to make it available to even more people. And so last year, we made it possible for people to use it even without an Apple Watch. And so the way I like to think of it is a great experience without the Apple Watch, great content, great motivation, and then it's kind of supercharged when you include the Apple Watch.
Do your trainers get feedback from the audience and the people that use them? I know that often people who use services like Fitness Plus really form a bond with a trainer and they tend to follow that trainer or, those particular people that they like. Do you find that the audience or fans are actually reaching out to yourself and trainers and giving you great accolades and telling you fun stories about their experiences?
Yes. One thing that's unique about our service is that while we obviously get customer letters about all of our great products and people write to Apple, with Apple Fitness Plus, our users tend to write directly to the trainers on social media. And so every single day the trainers spend time looking at their social media and seeing the letter or the direct messages and the feedback they get from the users that love the workouts. And so we're inspired every day by those messages. I remember we received one from someone that was participating in our rowing workouts with Josh Crosby, one of our trainers for rowing. And he's blind, and he'd said he'd never had an experience where he was able to do this, but he's now an avid user of the rowing workouts with Josh. And he talked about how he was able to follow along with the great cueing and found it incredibly motivating. The stories like that really inspire us, but we also hear every day from users that will say simple things like, I was on medication before I started exercising and meditating on Apple Fitness Plus, and I've been able to either lower that medication or eliminate it completely. Or I wasn't able to get down on the floor and play with my kids, and I felt myself missing out on activities with my family, and now I'm able to be more mobile and get around and do all the things that I love. And so for us, while we, of course, love people reaching their fitness goals, they might lose weight or they might run their first race, we are really inspired by the fact that almost all of our user messages lead with something like, I feel better. It's so amazing to see a trainer that looks like me. I'm emotionally in a better place. My mental health is better. And for us, that's really what gets us up every day. It's really why we created this service and why we'll continue to push on making it as inclusive as possible.
Jay, I tip my hats off to, of course, yourself and, of course, all the trainers and everybody involved in Fitness Plus. And I want to thank you for taking the time to join us. I know you've got a super busy schedule, but we really do appreciate it here on Access Tech Live.
Thank you very much for having us. And also congratulations to you for all the great work you're doing.
That is Apple's Vice President of Fitness Technologies, Jay Blahnik, here on Access Tech Live. And special thanks to obviously everybody who helped put together that interview. Lots of people involved. When we return, we're going to welcome Bobby Jensen to the program, the host of Healthy at Home. She'll be giving us her opinion on fitness programs and software just like Apple Fitness Plus, as well as some tips to get in shape just in time for the holidays. Stick around.
We want to hear from you. Follow us on social media and get involved at Access Tech Live. We'll be right back.